I said I could do this because I'm getting older. All my life, what they did for us, things like this, brought me back. This way of life.
Amen.
This spirit we still have. But, they wanted me to read this. And when we're done with this, we're going to ask the singers to sing an aim song for us. To sing a song for all of us, because that's all of us. That's our dream. Kihadoncha, Daduta, Oyati Tawa, Ihashim Koyak Bani, Maza Bobadu, Wafeduta, Wahina, Snamani, Da Iyak. Dawasa Chunkaska Tunka Icha Damani Akiana Ite Duta Amdecha Da Mafia Inan Henry Milford Chaskega Baptiste Campbell, Dante Kaga, Ipa, Appalite Ange, Napesne, Wakan Tanka, Tunka Koyagi Nazi, Makata Inazi, Maza Kute Mane, Date Dina, Wasichu. He's talking. Who was he? Utai Iko. Chita Huka. Chakahida. Hide. Oyate Aku. And we the two more that were brought back from Canada. They were kidnapped and brought back from home. Of course, knowing Shakbe. Wakai, Jaja. And I'm going to ask first singers to sing that hymn song for us.
My name is Fears No Enemy. For anyone who has any questions, if you can hear my voice, you are my relative. For Mataku Yayasan, we are all related. Often, I'm chosen to speak, but I find myself at a loss for words right now because my Uncle Jim Miller started this ride. To see this many people here, people that come in a good way, it's hard for me not to cry tears of joy. We stand in a spot where 38 men made the ultimate sacrifice. in a place that we said we were told we'd never be able to come back to. And right here, right now, there's a couple of my grandmas here. So right now my family has 5 generations standing in Mikado. People like my Uncle Jim, my Chia, and my big brother Wilfred had vision, had dream. And I know that spiritually they're here. And they would send their warmest regards. But as we do things like this, no matter what you believe in, there are things that will try and stop it from happening. Because healing is a process. Forgiveness is a gift. And so these men tax their minds, their bodies, and their souls so that we can stand up here. They do their things in a prayerful way so that we can acknowledge things like petitioning for freedom for Leonard Peltier, for prayer, full intent, for the children that were lost in boarding schools. That's why some of you may see that there's something different with the staff this year. And for missing and murdered Indigenous women and children. We stand here as a nation, coming to another nation for peace, hope, love, kindness, and compassion. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. We want to exercise our constitutional rights. Like Article 6, Section 2 of the Constitution, which was written before any other laws were even addressed, which says treaty rights shall be the supreme law of the land. We have a saying that says, accept our existence or expect our resistance. When we do these things, it's to come in a good way. My nephews, my nieces, my aunt, my grandson have all been praying for all of you for 16 days. Because the way my Tui, my Aunt Josette once said, we pray over all of us all the time. The rest of the world needs our prayers. So I want to thank people like Jack Considine, who's been for 2 decades now, has been an advocate and a staunch contender for anything that we need that's in a good way. I want to thank all the other state senators. I also want to acknowledge the Ojibwe Nation, because we were honored this year to have them come on the ride with us. 2 nations joined in peace and prayer. I have the very distinct honor of inviting someone to say something about herself and about one of our causes. And then we're going to do a little more. But right now, I'd like to introduce Senator Mary Kunesh, who has had a bill for missing and murdered Indigenous women for quite some time now. And we believe as a people that this needs attention. So, Senator, thank you.
Little height difference. Hahanoashte, Matakayape Ampetukinle, La Makota. My name is Senator Mary Kunish. I am a descendant of the Standing Rock Nation. I come from a long line of strong women and men who persevered, who lived through hardship and tragedy and pain and loss so that I can be here today with my own sister and my brother and my nieces and nephews and my family that are thinking about us and praying about us today. And I'm so fortunate to be able to be in a position where I can make really good, positive change for Minnesota, for our Dakota, Lakota, Anishinaabe, Ho-Chunk, for all the people of Minnesota. 5 years ago, I was elected to the Minnesota House of Representatives. And at that time, we had 2 Native women representing our nations at the state capitol. Susan Allen was the first Native American woman, and then Peggy Flanagan joined her. The year that I was elected, Jamie Becker-Finn and I, Jamie's another Anishinaabe woman, joined those 2, and we began the very first Native American caucus that the Minnesota legislature has ever had. Peggy went on to become our lieutenant governor. Susan Allen went on to do more good legal work. I went on to become the very first Native American woman to be elected to the Minnesota Senate. And with that comes the opportunity to make good changes, not just for our Indian nations, but for everybody. While I was in the House, I passed a piece of legislation to create the very first missing and murdered Indigenous women's task force in the nation that was as comprehensive as it was. And we spent 18 months in the community talking with those that make a difference. And we put out a report that is the most outstanding report of any report in the state of our state as well as the nation. And because we were able to identify so many of the issues, why are our women and our girls and our men and our boys and our Two-Spirits the highest incidences of violence and murder than any other group? What were those historic, those changes that went over the last couple hundred years? Being forced onto reservations, being starved, having our children removed and put into boarding schools, women seen as invisible and indispensable. All of those things, the foster care system, the adoption system, the lack of following through on ICWA, Indian Child Welfare Act, all of those things added to that. And so because of that, and because good people like Jack Constantine, good people like Senator Nick Friends, I know he's here somewhere, good people out there supported that legislation, and we this year passed legislation to create the very, very first in the nation again Missing and Murdered Indigenous Relatives Office to continue the work that we started. It makes it, my heart, my chest is so full right now when I look around at all of you folks that are here to commemorate this day. And you think about 150 plus years ago, 4,000 people were joined here for a different reason. On this site was a scaffolding, and on that scaffolding stood 38 Dakota men. And when this was happening, they put the white cover over their faces, and those Dakota men joined arms and sang their Dakota song. They were brave. They fought for what they needed for their communities. And that's what we do today. That's what I'm doing at the state legislature. That's what all of you are doing. That's what all these horsemen and these runners are doing, to remember that we are still here in spite of every attempt to exterminate us, against every opportunity that has been removed from us in order to prosper and continue our generations. And so I just want to say, Wopalatanka, Piamia, Chimigwich, Pinigigi, to all of those that are here today, that are watching, whose hearts are here with us this morning to commemorate these men and their families and the generations that were lost because they gave their lives, but also to lift up the generations that are here today. I look at the children and the babies, and I am so inspired. I myself became a grandmother not too long ago, and so the work that I'm going to continue to do is not just for us here today, but in honor of the ancestors that are with us every single day, the next generation, like my grandchildren, but also going forward 7 generations. We have to make sure that our lands, that our waters, that the work that we're doing today is going to benefit them so that they have the ability to live and prosper and be happy, practice their culture, their religion, and live the way that they were meant to live. So I say again, Wopilatanka.
And with that, we'd like to have a moment of silence for all of those that have been lost, but especially right now for the missing and murdered Indigenous women, the children of the boarding schools, men like Leonard Peltier, who are political prisoners. I would now like to have the distinct honor of inviting Mr. Jack Considine up here. He's been welcoming us to Mankato for nearly 2 decades now, and I don't think it wouldn't be right unless Jack said something. Oh, don't worry, Nick, you're next.
Hi. I'd like to start off with, I had the distinct pleasure for 2 years to sit next to Peggy Flanagan in the House, and then I had 2 years where I sat right next to Mary in the House. Both were very enlightening and actually a lot of fun too. She kept me laughing a lot in the back when I was upset. On behalf of the people of Mankato and the mayor of Mankato, who wanted to be here today but got a new grandchild yesterday and cannot make it. But Mayor Massad was planning on being here and unfortunately cannot do so. I was going to look for Senator Prince, but I see he's now behind me. Do we have Margaret Anderson Kelleher by any chance here? The former Speaker of the House was going to try to make it also. Anyway, on behalf of the people of Mankato, thank you so much for coming and welcome. As I've said before, this is an inspiration for all people to watch the dedication and resilience that the people that conduct the ride show every year. This is actually a fairly nice year. There have been times when 2 feet of snow or 10 below zero, and it's been really miserable. But again, thank you so much for honoring us. We appreciate you coming here, and we are dedicated to the reconciliation movement that started back in 1972 with Amos Owens, Jim Buckley, and Bud Lawrence. And we need to keep that, the spirit of those gentlemen alive. Thank you so much for coming.
One thing you'll understand is we do our best to go with the flow. And my Uncle Jimmy would like to say something about one of our political prisoners who also happens to be a relative of mine.
Back up here. We can crack with trash in here. Abadewa Katawana Wakbeku de Mata. Santi Dakota Mata. Santi Nebraska. Mati. I'm gonna say good morning. Yana was stay. Stay to all of you. We started on this ride. Some of us from Santi come up, join. Granddaughters, a lot of new granddaughters, Dakota. So I'm happy to see so many Dakota here today, little ones. They say when we do these things, we become relatives. And it makes me happy to see them. I'm kind of struggling right now, I'm getting older. But when we reached Flandreau, I got a call from a relative in Sioux Falls. He asked, wanted to talk about something. I want to bring you something. He came and he told me what he wanted to bring, and he wanted to bring something, a prayer. I had a paper, I lost that paper. I have too many Takoja in my truck. So I'm gonna have to go from my heart. I'm gonna have to go from wing it. That man, his name was John Eagle. He wanted, he brought the staff right here. It was made for Leonard Peltier. He's a direct descendant of Shinkaska. White dog. He was given a death sentence, 1862. And he was hung here for fighting for our way of life. I want to say a way of life, that's prayer, our culture, our language, everything. Just as all the other ones. Leonard Peltier, same thing. He was given a death sentence. A lot of people don't realize when you get life, that's a death sentence. He's been in there for 45 years. 45 years. For fighting for us, fighting for our way of life, fighting for our culture. Today I ask you to remember him. Pray for him. 45 years, he's getting really old. He wants to be home with his Takoja. They want him there. They don't realize they did these things back then, in 1862, to stifle our spirit. But it made us stronger. You look here today. The spirit is still here. They did the same thing with Leonard Peltier, to stifle our spirit. They did that, thinking we would back down, but we're still here. We're still walking the best way we can. We're still praying the best way we can. We're still doing the best we can with our language, our culture. It is coming back strong. But I want to say thank you. But I'm apado to every one of you for coming this day to welcome my Takoja, the fellow riders, our ponies. Our ponies, they went a long ways. They're sore, they're tired. But we wanted to thank you for that. Oh, Mutaka.
I'm going to invite Senator Nick Franz to say something, but we do have the runners coming in. Thank you for everything you're doing for our state.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Senator Kunesh. If you have not learned anything else today, I hope you learned this. You could not have a better voice in the Minnesota State Senate and at the Capitol as Senator Mary Kunesh. I also want to thank all of you for taking the time to recognize reconciliation as the very hard work that we all have to do. We cannot do it unless we're together. And it's not enough to just say reconciliation. It's not enough to just say we'll pass this bill or that bill. If you don't live it, you don't believe it. And I urge all of us to take a deep breath and just say, what does it mean to do the work of reconciliation? It's not just to talk about it, but it's to live it and breathe it. And with that, I just want to say thank you very much. It means a lot to have you come to our town here and to recognize that it's not just where we've been the last 150 years, but where we will be in the next 150. Thank you very much.
Many of you know, some of you don't, that late last night, people started running from Fort Snelling. It's a very special thing for me, where one of my grandpas, Willard Mailbearer, and another great man of our community, Emmett Eastman, started a vision a long time ago. And so we're waiting for them to come across the bridge so that we can welcome them. That's part of the reason that we got some of the horses around the way, because these people have been running all night. As you can tell, I'm not a huge fan of running, especially in weather like this. We're very gifted to have our horse nation to carry us. These men are coming with purpose. Men and women with dignity, with dreams. These people are carrying another great thing that our nation has come across. So when they come across the bridge, we'll be playing a song and we'll be welcoming them in. Because we slept in a hotel last night. These people have been moving from Fort Snelling to here on foot to carry the same thing that we do, to carry honor, peace, hope, understanding, but most of all, intentional prayer. Because as one of those men who started the ride said, to be Dakota means that every step is an intentful prayer. And so we go in the best way we can that they led, on foot, on horseback, whatever it takes, so that we can return home for our children, for our ancestors, and for everyone, so that we can just live as one, live in peace, understand each other, because that's what it's truly about. We don't have to agree with someone else's opinion, but we do have to agree that they're human, that they were created with purpose, that each and every one of us is carrying a gift to give to the world, that within us we can find something greater to share with all of those around us. I want to thank all of the people who have actually taken the years, done many things that no one sees. People like my Tui, my aunt, Josette Peltier. Without her, I wouldn't be the man that I am today. Men like Keith Nichols, Skull Vikings. Use a backup hand. But Keith has been with the ride for forever. He has made sure the horses are watered, crawling through ditches with garden hoses just to make sure our horses have something to drink. I want to thank Senator Nick, Senator Mary, Governor Walz, Jack Considine, all of these people. I want to thank Katie Boone, because of her logistics made today what today is. There are so many people, Ruth Matsky Anderson, whose father we know is Jacob Farmer, who's actually a descendant of the men who drove the ox carts And as reconciliation, he walked back. Even when we told him, get on a horse. No, you guys walked. I walked. Because when you see all of us, you may see a bunch of Indians. But there are many people from many nations and many colors and many creeds who helped this happen. My Aunt Alberta, who is here in spirit, Jim Miller's wife, has been our rock, our foundation for so many years. Men like Mike Chia, Peter Lenke, who's now the tribal chair of Crow Creek, my big brother, the staff carriers who helped pioneer the way. Men like Richard Milda, John Eagle, all of these men that have gone before us. I just want to thank you. And I want to thank you for being willing to stand out in the cold with us. And like Jack mentioned, it's a lot nicer than it's been. But when you're running logistics for horses, runners, and negotiating through cities, things get interesting. And so sometimes, like Jack told me a little while ago, we stall. Yeah, Dave Braveheart, Dan Volke, Amos Owens, all of them. And I mean, these are people who've been moving behind the scenes for years that we get to follow in their footsteps. You know, the governors, or the mayors of Mankato and North Mankato who helped facilitate the Dakota honoring. I think my most wonderful memory of this moment here was standing after Governor Walz came and issued a tear-filled apology and simply whispered in my ear as he was giving me a hug, "What more can we do?" And looking at my Uncle Arvel and walking over to him and saying, "What, he wants to know what more they can do?" He said, "Nothing. It's finished." Because the truth of it all is we just want to know our history and want others to have the availability to know an accurate history of who we are and what we do. First and foremost, that's all we're asking for. Because for each one of these nations, we have histories. But unfortunately, a lot of the history books are written by victors who want to look like heroes. They did many great things. But we would also like to tell the tale of our people and the many great things that they did to help make this nation. That there were people of red, yellow, black, and white, just like our medicine wheel, that helped make this what it is. And quite honestly, I think we've gotten too far away from that. And so we're doing our part to try and bring it back to the center, to understand oneness, to understand togetherness, to understand Tioshba, Tioahe, family. Because there are many people here. And there are many people surrounding communities. And for all of those who have lifted us up in prayer, for all of those who have given to the GoFundMe page to help those who aren't able to afford it on their own, this is all part of you too. This is all us. This is all Matakuye Yasin. And really, I'm kind of wondering how fast the runners are running.